Hello, greetings, and welcome, my dear listeners. It's been a while, hasn't it? Life has been keeping me busy. Very busy indeed. But I'm getting back into the game. Those who follow me on my channel know that I've already created the map I will be using in Damocles Gulf Crusade rewrite. I also have general idea of the given periods of the Crusades itself and which battles will take place and which of them will be worthy of proper narration, and which will be delegated to simple footnote information. As I said, I intend to make Damocles Gulf Crusade rewrite a semi-narrated documentary about the entire crusade. So there will be good amount of drama and intrigue, as well as bloody combat on the ground or in the void. But as some of you might have noticed, this isn't a start of Damocles Gulf Crusade. Nope. This will be a rant series, where I will be talking out of my ass without any script, choosing one subject for an episode of Out of the Hat. Why would I do that? Because I can, and because I've noticed that there are people who enjoy little rants. I will do my best to keep it brief, so not to bore you and to not put too much effort into such small video. It's basically just here to keep me on the radar of algorithm gods and to keep you entertained when I work on something else. With that said, let's... Wait, what is this? What is happening to me? Much better. Yeah, I evolved. I think I look not too shabby at all. This art was made by Jesus da Silva, the same guy who created art for good old Baltic Otvar, from the sneak peek I posted some time ago. I think it's quite neat. I bought it to myself on Children's Day. Don't you look at me like that. I can do what I want and I can buy myself a present for Children's Day. I'm an adult and I can do what I want to do. Now, what I wanted to talk about? Yeah. I would like to talk about the series and a creator who inspired me to start my YouTube series. And, well, my feelings about his work. I am, of course, talking about the one, the only, the magnificent AFanWithTooMuchTime. A man who is both too ambitious and too critical of himself. Okay, look. I like AFanWithTooMuchTime. I like him a lot. I like his series, I like his work, I like his imagination and ability to write from so many perspectives. Hell, I absolutely adore his ability to speak in the voices of so many different characters. His comics are very enjoyable, and his Star Wars vs Warhammer 40k series is overall great. However, my positive feelings in regards of this series don't mean I don't have critique. I mean, this man did inspire me to create my own YouTube channel and write my own work. I do not believe that I would start anything without AFanWithTooMuchTime creating his own work and showing what people can create and show on YouTube and become popular among many viewers. But on the other hand, I have a lot of experience with writing And when I see how AFanWithTooMuchTime creates and writes, I see the glaring mistakes I was doing myself and still am doing. So I have this strange love-irritation relationship with AFanWithTooMuchTime and his work. In one moment, I am excited, I am happy, and in other, I'm grabbing my head and screaming at the screen, no, don't do this, don't shoot yourself in the foot, you magnificent bastard, don't do it to yourself. And AFanWithTooMuchTime shoots himself in the foot almost every single freaking time. It's like watching Titanic slowly sinking and then breaking apart. You just can scream, no, fuck. Okay, I was rambling a little bit, so I will try to give you concrete, like, reasons why I think that AFanWithTooMuchTime is shooting himself in the foot in so many places. You know what is the hardest thing as a writer and your story? It's to keep control over it. That might sound weird, but when you truly immerse yourself into your own world that you've created, that you've written into characters, perspectives, and so on, the story starts to live its own life. And because of your passion, because of your love to your own work, you desire to fully explore it, fully showcase it to everyone who is interested. And that's absolute mistake, because you are losing cohesion. I started training myself and forcing myself to limit my own stories. For example, when I was starting writing, I tried to write from perspective of multiple characters. Then I saw that I moved the plot like 2 steps and had over 100 pages of book I was writing. This was shit, so I threw everything out and I started again. And again and again and again. I burned through so many fucking projects. I will tell you all the tales about it in the other rant, or not at all. I don't know if I will be ready to tell you about everything in how I became an author, creator, writer, however the hell you want to call it. But I have this experience that because I wanted to show my world from many perspectives, the story was elongated and became more and more confusing and less cohesive. And if there are fans of AFanWithTooMuchTime and his Star Wars vs 40k series on YouTube, you know precisely what I'm talking about. For all his skill with narration, with plot, with intrigue, with dialogue, which is really bloody hard to do, AFanWithTooMuchTime has zero, absolute none. He doesn't have ability to limit himself. He simply does not have it, and as far as I can tell, doesn't try to force himself, train himself to control his own story. One day, I will try to make a full critique of Star Wars vs 40k series. And one of the biggest critiques out there is amount of perspectives. Like, I think there's at least 12 characters. Not 1, not 2, but 12. And I think that there are probably more. I mean, if I try to do it, I will have to make a chart. Like a map of how many perspectives we are seeing and how we are jumping between them. And listen, I am not against many perspectives. I, in fact, wrote and still writing few stories where there were many perspectives. However, AFanWithTooMuchTime seemingly doesn't have ability to sort them out. For example, I used so-called, or I called it arc system. I will explain it. You know how in the Clone Wars series on TV, there were arcs, like 3, 4, or 2 episode arcs that talked about very specific topic, like very specific plotline or plot point. And those 3 episodes were connected with each other, had the same characters, and singular, cohesive narrative. And this way, you can have many perspectives and have little blocks. This block is perspective of these characters within this plot line or this plot point. And here's another box, and another blocks, another box, and together you are creating a building, a story, a structure. And that's beautiful. That's beautiful and that's very important. Of course, the arc system has its weaknesses, because you have main characters of an arc, but not really of the entire structure. So you must be sure that the narrative overall is focused on the structure rather than individual characters. The individual characters are part of a structure. They are important to it, but aren't like the core. There are 1 or 2 or 3 more important characters, but you must balance things out. With this context, I can tell you that AFanWithTooMuchTime has some amazing skill, because characters we see the story are extremely diverse, from civilians to guardsmen to Jedi to Sisters of Battle, Space Marines, agents of the Inquisition. You can really see a given event from a lot of perspectives, a lot of ways of thinking about given plot points, how the size of Warhammer 40k reacts to elements from Star Wars, and how characters from Star Wars reacts to elements from Warhammer 40k. And AFanWithTooMuchTime has amazing ability to play those experiences from each other. There's thick and there's stuck. It all bounces between each other, connects, fuses. It's great, in my opinion, that he has this diverse group of characters from whose perspective we can see the narrative unfolding. However, rather than like I proposed using blocks, using arcs, AFanWithTooMuchTime prefers spaghetti. In other words, you have characters, each spaghetti noodle is singular group of characters connected to given plot line. He gets them all nicely prepared, gets them into a bowl or plate, pours this rich sauce of a narrative and story right on top of it all, and then he takes this whole spaghetti and mixes it. And we all know that eating spaghetti, while pleasurable, can be really messy. You might be eager to slurp one noodle fast, and then the end of this noodle just smacks you in the eye, and you, oh, what the fuck? That's how I feel with how AFanWithTooMuchTime story is constructed. It's a plate of great spaghetti, but the sauce is maybe too rich. In some places there's maybe too many noodles. Like you look at this mountain of spaghetti and yes, it will be pleasurable, but you know that if you try to eat it whole you will puke. Like it's too much of a good thing. Like the chef created perfect, really good spaghetti, but decided to give you 10 portions instead of 1, what you asked for. And I think the greatest crime that AFanWithTooMuchTime commits is that as you eat this great spaghetti, he, as a chef, stands nearby with scissors. And just as you are this close to getting to the end of a noodle, he steps in and cuts it. Too many fucking cliffhangers. Oh God Almighty, how many cliffhangers there are. Or bloody switcheroos. Because that's also something that AFanWithTooMuchTime uses in abundance. Like there is an event, for example, a character or something is about to happen, and we are sure that this thing will happen. When AFanWithTooMuchTime uses, or at least it would be this, and this, if not for, and there goes some other element, maybe connected to the another storyline noodle, that comes in and breaks the harmony of eating this one noodle. To the point that in many cases is unnecessary. There's at least 2 or 3 characters that should either die or accomplish their task either way, because like its narration is, oh, they failed, no, they indeed managed to win, or no, they died, but no, they actually live. And it's just, for crying out loud, in some situations it's just getting silly. Like, it's good in some places. Don't get me wrong. One chapter where a sister of battle duels a Jedi. Holy fucking shit. The finish of this goddamn duel is masterpiece. It's a switcheroo, but it's crisp. It's so bloody good. It's amazing. I was inspired. It was all like spiritual experience, this one chapter. I'm not going out through the spoilers for obvious reasons, because you might want to enjoy the story. And you know, this one switcheroo was great. It was crispy, it was shocking, it was inspiring, it was truly elevating the storyline and how impactful the arrival of Imperial factions from Warhammer 40k is for the entire narrative. However, I think that AFanWithTooMuchTime noticed how good or how well this was perceived and decided to overuse it. And it's in many places, and it's getting bad. Okay, it's getting spoiled by the amount of time it's getting used. It's the cliffhangers and the switcheroos are very problematic, at least for me. I don't understand why we need to jump constantly from one plot line to another. Like, constantly we are jumping. And sometimes within one chapter we can go through like 3 or 4 plot lines or perspectives. And sometimes we will go only through 2, but we will be jumping between them. And sure, in some cases, this has some merit. But in the others, it's just getting irritated, because we have situation of a duel between a group of Jedi and a Space Marine, and this duel is getting expanded or extended through like, I think at least 8 or 9 chapters, episodes, however you want to call them. And the problem is that many episodes in between have basically nothing about this duel. So we have this epic, impressive, and breathtaking duel that is really well written. Don't get me wrong, it's really freaking good. But we are getting like a one small piece of a full meal. I don't understand why AFanWithTooMuchTime doesn't decide to write his story in arcs. Or at least like in half of an arc. Something to make this story more cohesive. Again, story is very enjoyable. It really is like very good spaghetti. But it's too much, too confusing. There was damn cliffhangers, switcheroos, like you're eating a good, salty, meaty spaghetti and suddenly you are eating spaghetti that is with sugar and cream. I live in Poland, we have strange ways of eating different things. Now all Italians are preparing to kill me. Don't worry, you will not find me. I am hiding very well. But yeah, getting back on the topic. AFanWithTooMuchTime writes a very good story. The characters are really bloody good. I wish I could write this many, this deep, well developed, and lovable and enjoyable characters. I mean, you can feel and hear, because his ability to voice his characters are just amazing. Absolutely golden. No other way around it. Yeah, again, love-irritation relationship. AFanWithTooMuchTime does so many things so well, just on amazing level, and then there are things that he does just terribly. He tries to show one event from a dozen or more perspectives. Imagine, if you will, a Battle of Stalingrad, but showed from perspectives of dozens of characters from both sides. You have Germans, you have Soviets, you have civilians who are still inside, like you have perspective of a factory worker and a woman who just tries to keep their children safe. You have perspective of German commander, German soldier, like a gunner, or a tanker. Or tanker. And on Soviet side, you have also a perspective of general, of an infantryman, a tankman, and an artillery guy. And all those perspectives are showing the same battle, the same event. AFanWithTooMuchTime has a single battle, which he describes from these many perspectives, both on the ground and in the void. He adds another battles that are happening as this battle is going on, and political machinations within the Senate. All of this together creates a web of connections and allows a viewer to see this battle, this one event, from really almost any possible perspective. It's impressive, but also means that a battle that supposedly should last around 48 hours, I will not gonna lie, I think that currently overall runtime of this one battle is probably more than 48 hours. And I mean that assuming that the battle does actually last 48 hours and not 24, because I heard both ways. AFanWithTooMuchTime shows this battle for so long that there are viewers who believe that this battle lasts weeks. No, this is all within 24 hours. Or 48, I'm unsure. Still, I think that if your story about an event that takes 24 or 48 hours is longer than this event should take overall, I think you went more than overboard. That's like my main feelings about AFanWithTooMuchTime. He is an inspiring person. He created amazing series with amazing plot, amazing characters, very good power scaling. I wasn't talking about it before, but he is really good with power scaling overall. There are moments where he goes into Dragon Daisy territory. If you watch this Star Wars vs Warhammer 40k series, you know about which moment I'm talking about. I know it was cool, this one duel. Again, really well written duel. Really well written interaction, dialogue, and the combat. It's amazing. But again, AFanWithTooMuchTime, I feel, is making like 2 or 3 steps. He's taking it too far. He should be cutting it in terms of scale. And I love many characters that he created. I really do, and I appreciated their perspectives. But I do not believe that they are worthy of being interconnected with the main narrative. Hell, write this main narrative from main perspectives, and then if you want, add side stories to it. If you really must, but make it more cohesive, more reasonable. AFanWithTooMuchTime inspired me to start my YouTube channel, but also is a source of my many fears, because all the mistakes he makes are mistakes that I was doing long ago, and I'm afraid that I will start again. That's one of the reasons why when I'm planning Damocles Gulf Crusade rewrite, I'm planning to make it into an arc system. So we'll be watching different events or plot points from very specific points of view. There will be characters that are returning or side characters that became main characters for a given narrative to progress, but I will be working very, very, very hard to ensure that the story is cohesive. In fact, believe it or not, but originally the series that I wanted to show all of you on YouTube wasn't Tau Empire Reimagined. It wasn't Damocles Gulf Crusade Rewrite. It was Star Wars X 40k, where I would put Tau Empire, of course, into Star Wars Galaxy. This original idea was supposed to be like a homage, a bow of respect from me to AFanWithTooMuchTime. His story is focused around the Clone Wars period in Star Wars. Mine would be around the time of the Phantom Menace. I think I will talk about it in another Out of the Hat rant video, because, believe it or not, but a lot of elements from this Star Wars X Warhammer 40k or Star Wars X Tau plot or project was transformed and evolved into elements we know from Tau Empire Reimagined. For example, the few species that are on the list were created originally for Star Wars X 40k. My idea to make sure that the Tau Empire within Star Wars Galaxy would be multi-species empire was born from that project. Hell, some characters have names inspired or simply copied from characters I was creating for the Star Wars X40k. You probably remember Commander Munsu and Commander Ransai. Well, the main character of Star Wars X40k was supposed to be Munsu Ransai, Moonlance, a Tau commando. So yeah, the Ransais, the Lances of the Coalition, were inspired by my original main character from Star Wars X40k. In the end, I decided against this project and went with Tau Empire Reimagined, and now I'm preparing for Damocles Gulf Crusade rewrite, and I think it's better story overall. You know what was one of the most important elements of this Star Wars X40k, this original project inspired by Star Wars vs Warhammer 40k by AFanWithTooMuchTime? It was unintentionally to be less ambitious in scale and number of perspectives and the power that characters are dealing with. The entire story was supposed to be from perspective of Munsu Ransai and his adventures in the Star Wars galaxy. There would be many interesting characters, many with different powers, including psychic powers, but the main character wouldn't, use magic powers to lift a dreadnought and crush it with his hands. No, I wanted to make more grounded story. And most of all, I wanted the story to be written for fun, for mostly my own pleasure. Something I also think that AFanWithTooMuchTime is losing because he's too critical of himself. Just as he lacks the ability to limit the amount of perspectives. I mean, he says that he did cut elements of his story, but honestly, if he did, I didn't notice. Sorry, it's too much. Again, 10 portions of a great spaghetti is still too much spaghetti, no matter how good. And sadly, for whatever reason, there are people who have very harsh and unjustifiable critique or just trolling in the comment section. I mean, there are people who will turn farts into hurricanes. And I have a feeling that AFanWithTooMuchTime is taking those people too seriously. He's too self-conscious of his work, or he's too self-critical of himself. And that's why he both writes so well-written stories. I mean, they're on amazing level, but on the same time, it's burning him to the crisp. He's burning into the ashes because of his self-critique. I can rant now for 30 minutes and later create a full video that will be cohesive critique of his work. And I can tell you, without any amount of doubt, that I am sure that AFanWithTooMuchTime has made up more critique of himself in his work within his own head than whatever I could come up with. Or that if he watches this video, he will be well too self-conscious about my critique, my points that I'm talking that are mistakes, and will be intentionally or unintentionally blocking out my praises of his amazing work in dialogue, character creation, and so on and so on and so on. Yeah, it's love-irritation relationship. I am very inspired and humbled by AFanWithTooMuchTime work. a fan fiction that is on such scale and such talent, such passion given to such project. It's truly inspiring. And yet, he reminds me of so many stupid mistakes that I was doing when I was far younger. And yeah, it's painful to watch, and it's painful to see that he ignores the pleas for him to stop and limit himself. It's painful as hell, but from my perspective, he is losing control over his own story. In one of his after talks, he said that he has plans well into the future of the series, and I believe him. However, even with this general core of the story, he allowed the story to grow wider and wider and wider, and it's slipping out of his control. I'm repeating myself, but again, the series he created, it's amazing dish of spaghetti, like one of the best I ever eaten. But why it's 10 bloody portions? I cannot fathom. To all aspiring writers, authors, or just people who want to have enjoyable time, I tell you to watch Star Wars vs. Warhammer 40k, because it is a great series and it's very enjoyable. I also encourage you to see the problems with the story and have in your mind an idea of healthy critique. I love Star Wars vs. Warhammer 40k. It's an amazing story. It really is. But I don't allow my appreciation to AFanWithTooMuchTime blind me to blatant mistakes that are present in his work. I feel like many people forget that you can have both. Like, I wouldn't critique and praise Star Wars vs. 40k if I didn't care or if I didn't enjoy the series. Well, I was ranting for long enough. This already is far longer than I initially expected it to be, so I will cut it here now. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope you enjoyed. Now, my dear listeners, remember, wherever you are, whatever you do, try to enjoy yourself while you can. I wish you most heretical day. Ta-ta!